Your purpose is to shut down comedy because you find it offensive because you're a second-rate comedian who made a documentary that sucks, you talentless South Asian. So this is the story we're going to move on today, is The Simpsons, and Hank Azaria now is apologizing for Apu. So question. Should stereotypes be allowed in comedy, as we see in The Simpsons? And what, if anything, in comedy? We've talked about how the left is ruining comedy. Yeah. But what do you think is off limits? Do you think that comedy also in 2018 is better off or worse off than when you were first allowed in a comedy club or of age? You know where I line up. I am absolutely just terrified at the current state of comedy. For proof of such, let's look to today's main story. Huffington Post is now rejoicing over the fact that Hank Azaria might step aside for the voice of Apu to, of course, make room for progress. So he was on late night comedy show, Colbert show, the arbiter of all things funny, and you know that it's funny because of the he is #1 stop on apology tour to the politically correct left. True. Let's see what he had to say. Hank Azaria, Apu.
And it's sparked a lot of conversation about what should be done with the character going forward, which is not so easy to answer. And I've tried to express this before. You know, the idea that anybody was young or old, past or present, was bullied or teased based on the character of Apu, it just really makes me sad. It was certainly not my intention. I wanted to spread laughter and joy with this character. And the idea that it's, you know, brought pain and suffering in any way, that it was used to marginalize people, it's upsetting, genuinely.
Okay, first off, maybe everyone wasn't an absolute pansy back then.
Exactly.
Maybe Indian kids back then. I had plenty of Indian kids who went to my school. One of them dressed up as Apu for Halloween. They weren't offended. Maybe just that now everyone is offended by all the actual things. And by the way, how many fat kids were referred to as Homer Simpson or Peter Griffin? It's not exclusive just to an Indian character. Do you have any idea how terrible actual bullying is? Oh, slushy, quick. You really think that that's destroying some kid's self-esteem? You really think that Apu destroyed the self-esteem of some Indian girl so she became someone stripping her way through college?
I watched Glee once. I know how bullying works.
Yes, exactly. I watched it. They made fun of the gay kid singing show tunes. You want to know what? In real life, that kid never gets made fun of, ever. If you just say you're gay, sing show tunes down the hallway, you have a hall pass. And by the way, Apu, for those who don't know, is a totally patriotic, entrepreneurial immigrant who loves the United States.
It's not a bad stereotype.
It's not a bad stereotype.
He owns his own business, and a lot of times multiple.
He owns his own business, which, by the way, Native American. See, I'm saying Native Americans. I'm going to say Indians because now they go on to say South Asians. They don't want you to say Indians. Indians in the United States make more than the average American because they come. And yes, that was actually built not just through being doctors or lawyers, but bodegas, franchises, small businesses. Very, very industrious people. Apu is not a negative stereotype just because he has a funny accent, which, by the way, the Indian accent is kind of funny. Also, hit the notification bell if you're subscribed on YouTube because that doesn't mean anything anymore if you want to be in the loop for when our videos come next. Let's go to the next clip for this hilarious conversation on comedy.
I think that if anybody came away from that segment feeling that they should lighten up or take a joke better or grow a thicker skin or toughen up.
That's what people said, we've heard what you said and we're not going to respond.
Yeah, that's certainly not the way I feel about it. And that's definitely not the message that I want to send.
Okay, yeah, we never want a comedy show to be the one to tell people to lighten up. Sure, if they feel like we want them to lighten up or develop a thicker skin, that's why you exist. That's the sole purpose of your program.
Comedy is supposed to make you feel a little uncomfortable.
Yes.
And you're supposed to be able to address subjects that you can't otherwise.
Comedy there's always a bit of pain. People understand every single joke has a little. If you take the most corny Christian comedian, let me take the oldest joke of all time. Why did the chicken cross the road?
Why? Why did the chicken?
To get to the other side. Yeah. The joke is you. The pain is, haha, you're stupid. Yeah. All comedy comes from a little bit of pain, and that's okay. That's not that wasn't the message he wanted. Well, his message now is that comedians need to apologize, even though it's 25 years later, because things can retroactively be considered offensive. That's the message that's being sent right now. Is we don't want to have a comedy show tell people to lighten up or develop a thicker skin. I really want we should have all the things retroactively be apologized for. Everyone who liked Blazing Saddles and wrote a positive review on Metacritic in 2002, we need them to bring that down.
Yeah, John Browning on our show said this morning, it's not enough that you couldn't make it now. You're not supposed to enjoy it.
You're not
now.
supposed to enjoy it now.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy it, you need to analyze what's wrong with you as to why you enjoy it and then get put on psychotropic medication.
We wouldn't even be able to watch anything at that point because something is going to be offensive to somebody at some point.
That's exactly right.
All of it's gone. You're
Hey,
done.
speaking of what's offensive, let's continue to the interview. Let's continue on the, let me make this clear. Continue with the comedy interview with a late night comedy show.
And as I say, my eyes have been opened. And I think the most important thing is we have to listen to South Asian people, Indian people in this country. When they talk about
South Asian, Indian, South Asian.
what they feel and how they think about this character and what their American experience of it has been.
Yeah, that's what's most important as a comedian. You don't have to listen to shit. You're not a psychologist. You're a comedian. It's just crazy to me. This is the boilerplate release. I think what's most important is to listen. And if anyone's feelings were hurt, while you're on your apology tour, okay, you gonna apologize for Godzilla 2000?
Please. First on the list.
Everything retroactively offensive now. Okay, what about Bugs Bunny when he was a female bunny? Is Pepe Le Pew now rape culture? If people shut it off and you lose your audience, that's comedy. That's the voice speaking back. That's how you're listening. How many, that used to be what comedians like The Simpsons or comedy shows and South Park and Family Guy, that's what they did. How many times did we hear when we were growing up, if Christians were upset or wanted to boycott something, they would say, well, if you don't like it, shut it off. Change the channel.
That was the
If you don't like it,
theme
change
for
the
South
channel.
Park. People say that all the time at South Park.
If you don't like it, shut it off.
Yeah.
That's it. That used to be the message. If you don't like it, shut it off. What this is right now, and by the way, there are millions of people who still like and watch The Simpsons.
Yeah.
This is actually giving a door to any and all hecklers. It's giving just as much power to the heckler as it is to the comedian and the audience now. Picture this in a comedy club. A comedian tells a joke about, or does an Apu, does an impression, tells a joke, the entire audience is laughing, but one person, like HuffPo, or the people who make these documentaries, or the people who demand apologies for all things offensive in comedy, one heckler speaks up and says, boo, that's offensive. What Hank Azaria is saying is that person's opinion, which is a small minority, is just as valid as not only the opinion of the audience who've paid to be there or who've tuned in, who've paid with their time, but as valid as the person who created the art in the first place. People don't understand. They're retroactively giving authority to hecklers and empowering them. It used to be someone spoke, I'm offended, and you say, well, shut up and get out of the club, and you make fun of their mother, generally implying that she was
have a timeout
some kind of a whore.
Invite them on stage.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Now it's saying, let's listen to the heckler.
bit.
Yeah.
And by the way,
Here's
this
the microphone.
For people who don't know, this all stems from a documentary from a self-professed comedian, an Indian American, South Asian American, I don't know how we call it now. A self-professed comedian telling other comedians what comedy should be because that's how you know it's funny. This documentary.
My name is Hari Kondabolu. I've had a great career filled with laughter, critical acclaim. I should be completely happy, but there's still one man who haunts me, Apu Nahasapima Pedalon.
A white guy doing an impression of a white guy making fun of my father.
There are accents that, by their nature, to white Americans, sound funny, period.
It's funny because it's racist. Does Apu count as a minstrel since it's brown paint, a white guy's voice?
He has all the qualifications.
Actually, no. It's funny because it's foreign to us, and generally, just like my mom's French-Canadian accent. Everyone here laughs. She doesn't think that you hate her. She doesn't think that you're racist. It's just funny because she adds an S where there is not one needed and one where there isn't.
Yeah.
Say, hey, guys, I'm going to go down to do the store grocery and buy some shrimps. That's hysterical. Thank you, Francine.
Be sure to wash your hands with Teeves.
Yeah, be sure to wash it. If you are sick, take the oil of Teeves. Do you mean Eve oil?
Yeah.
Oils, mother? Now I'm getting confused with the plural.
Like when you say Nike. You know,
Just
they
like
give
when
you a
I
hard
say
time.
Nike. Nike. Whereas my mom goes, it's Nicks. No, Mom, there's no plural on there. But here's the thing. It's funny because it's funny because it's foreign, Mr. Indian documentary film. Kind of like your people do in India. Let's see. Look at this. Oh, there you go.
So much.
Yeah, these are actually Bollywood films.
Say hi.
No, I just did.
That's a lot of pelvic thrusting.
But we're going to be mad because of a cartoon character with an accent. Just so you know, not everyone in the Cleveland show voiced by a black guy either. But not only India, all cultures do this. They all tend to laugh or make fun of other cultures, or at least observe the differences, because that's what makes comedy. You look at the differences of people and you see what bonds us together. Granted, they don't do it that well in Mexico. Look what they do here. It's pretty...
Discúlpeme, maestra, pero mire, me encontré a Jorge allá afuera jugando con lobo.
Es el niño que nos enviaron del intercambio escolar.
Ay, pensé que era Jorgito enchapopotado.
Those silly Mexicans.
Silly Mexicans. Now, guess what? If you used a racial slur for the Mexicans who just put a guy in blackface and said he was covered in tar, we'd be demonetized.
So when will they be woke?
This is what's so yes, when will they be woke? I wonder if the Mexicans, I wonder if that blackface Mexican who they covered in seemingly chia pudding, that was the worst blackface ever, I wonder if he's woke.
He is now.
Yes.
Well, he is if he wants a paycheck and he wants to be on a Mexican sitcom. You ever seen Mexicans sell cars? It's just tits.
The spicy lollipops ain't gonna buy
cars.
themselves.
You know what?
Look, we are having a sale. Ay, papi. You ever seen these commercials?
Sex sells in other
Sex
countries.
sells in
Put it right
Latin
out
American
there,
countries.
you know?
Here's what's so crazy to me is this is the state of comedy. Again, that's why I asked you what you think about the state of comedy in 2018. It can no longer be fun. Or when you see Amy Schumer now with her recent film, it's not because she's fat and unattractive. It's because she demands that we praise her for being fat and unattractive. And she talks about how comfortable she is and how comedy needs to have comedy sometimes doesn't need to have a purpose. And here's the thing, when comedy does have a purpose, it now, according to the left, needs to be the right purpose, or it's not allowed in comedy. A lot of comedy that we do here has a purpose, and it has a more meaningful purpose than telling women that their stretch marks are awesome, or telling people that they need to apologize for an Indian accent. It has a purpose actually espousing freedom and freedom of speech, and making sure that people who actually exercise these rights aren't imprisoned, aren't fined, like you see with Count Dankula, or our friend Mike Ward, who was put before Human Rights Tribunal in Canada. That's what we're doing with our comedy. That's the purpose to our comedy. Your purpose is to shut down comedy because you find it offensive, because you're a second-rate comedian who made a documentary that sucks, you talentless South Asian American, which doesn't make that much sense as I say it out loud. I feel bad about it. Now compare that. That's comedy in 2018. You want to tell me that that's more fun than what comedy used to be, late night used to be?
Marco Mangananzo was hurt.
Marco Mangananzo.
Fambino Bombazzo. 2 bullets in the head Thursday. But I tell you, I'm a Jew and you're an Italian. And here we have what? And this is a great Irishman. This is America.
Well, it used to be. Hey, did you enjoy this video? Here's the thing, you're here, this is the end of it, so we don't care because you already watched it. But if you really didn't like it and you want to justify it, leave a comment below telling us why you didn't like the video. And if you liked us, let us know. And subscribe to the channel, because that lets the overlords at YouTube know that, you know what? You're all right.